All right, back with another mock draft review, a mock draft reaction, whatever you want to call it. This time I am doing it's a Pro Football Focus mock draft. This is going to be Trevor Sikkema, who is, I believe, PFF's number one draft analyst out there. He's kind of like their main guy at this point, so definitely someone to pay attention to. Also a fellow Buccaneers fan, so let's go. Don't screw up that pick, Trevor. Let's get into it. Starting off with top, yep, Caleb Williams, definitely, that makes sense, and Drake May at number 2. So far, on board, this is smart, well done. I think we see some people overthinking this a little bit. I think that Williams and May should be the top 2, but again, there's other guys to like, and there are criticisms with May's game. I understand it. I just think the pros outweigh the cons. Check out my film study on Drake May if you haven't already and want to hear more thoughts on it. Just search Jackson Kruger Sports Drake May. It'll come up. Jaden Daniels, number 3. Yeah, I think this is going to happen as well. Not what I would do personally. I'd rather just get the elite wide receiver. I don't know if Daniels is such a can't-miss prospect that it's worth throwing him into the fire that the Patriots are going to have with not a lot of talent. But, again, I do understand the logic. If he hits, it's going to be way more valuable than even an elite wide receiver. But will he hit is the question. All right, so this is, again, there's kind of the Vikings question and the J.J. McCarthy question that comes up during all of these of when is J.J. McCarthy going to be drafted, and also when what are the Vikings going to do with their extra first-round pick that they traded for? It's kind of like what's going on there. Trading up to 4 is interesting, though, because do the Cardinals... How comfortable are they not getting one of those elite wide receivers? That's the question, right? And I do, I saw on PFF Brad's mock draft, he had the Vikings, or I believe it was the Vikings trading up to number 5, which might make a little more sense because, but we'll see. Maybe the Cardinals are more willing to do a trade because maybe they know they have a lot more holes in their roster. I like McCarthy. I think he's, I don't think he's unworthy of a number 4 overall pick. Let's just say that. The question is he worth, trading all those assets also for? Still maybe. It's not a terrible move. I would not hate this move at all by either team. Chargers, yes, this is correct. I feel like I see too many times the Chargers passing on Marvin Harrison Jr. if he falls to 5. No, if there's top quarterbacks 1 through 4, the Chargers, I know you like Joe Alt, I know there's other players you like, just get Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think more people need to think like this, of like, a lot of times teams are, yes, they want to draft for need, yes, there's all this stuff, but there's a certain point when, like, when the Jaguars drafted Josh Allen, the defensive end, it was kind of just like, oh, this guy fell to us, let's draft him. Like, sometimes you just do that. I think that's what the Chargers would do here, I think. Romeo Dunze, okay, well, as I say, just draft the best player available. The Giants going with a guy who is not considered by most to be wide receiver 2, but he is considered by some. So that is part of it. A little bit of a surprise here, though. I would say a little bit of a surprise not going Neighbors at number 6. But we'll see. I do think he would. I think Odunze is a great player. I think he'd be great for the Giants. Joe Alt, number 7. Yeah, again, you could consider Neighbors here. You really could. Maybe Sikkema is not quite as high on Neighbors as I am. But, I think Alt is, again, a great player and also would fit, they need a tackle. I would not be mad at this pick whatsoever if they did it. Dallas Turner, like, again, I'm kind of sorry, but I'm just like, I don't know if Dallas Turner is worth pick number 8. Literally every mock draft has him going number 8. It's like consistently across the board. I guess I'm the one person who was lower on Turner, but it feels like most big boards, and most people don't really have him worth the number 8 overall pick. It just feels like a need move, which if you're doing that, just trade down, I think. But there are some people who really like Dallas Turner's game. So, and he's very good. He'll be a very good player. I don't want to come off like I'm a hater on Turner. Just a bit early for me. I think that, I'd rather trade down with a team that wants Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors goes number 9 to the Bears. I'm sure Bears fans would be very happy about getting him this far. As Trevor says, you're telling me Caleb Williams is going to throw to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Malik Neighbors? Yeah, pretty good situation for Caleb Williams to be drafted into. A lot better than what happened with Justin Fields. Choi Fuantu here goes to the Jets. That's interesting. Again, I think Fuaga would have been my pick, but that's an interesting pick. I haven't seen that before, but that does kind of make some sense. Feels like a bit of a reach for me, though, personally. And even Quinyon Mitchell, so they traded down right? So they get the extra draft picks. Still, I like Quinyon Mitchell. This is just a bit high for me. I think I'd rather a Brock Bowers or someone. I think he'd be very good, though, even a Fuaga, who goes next to the Eagles. So what happens here? So the Eagles traded with the Broncos. The Broncos trade back. So if the Broncos can make this trade work, I'm totally in favor of it. So what's the what's the logic here? I guess I know that yes, the Eagles love their offensive linemen, but I don't know. I feel like I've seen this a few times where people are saying, well, once Lane Johnson retires, well then once he retires, then you draft the guy. Then I feel like you don't need to have the replacement ready right now. I don't think it's an Eagles move. It's what they do. I just wouldn't love it. That being said, Fuaga's a great player. So, and again, can play multiple positions, I would assume. Feels very versatile. So, not the worst idea in the world. Just, I feel like there's bigger needs for Philadelphia. I'd rather them address than trade away assets to try and go up and get a player who might not play this year. That's just how I view it. Again, I think they're still trying to be competitive. They made a Super Bowl 2 years ago. I know it went off the rails the end of last year, but still. I don't know. Interesting. Not what I would do if I was Philadelphia. Let's say that. Raiders going Terran Arnold, sure. Aluf Fashanu for the Saints. Yep, that would be a smart move. Brock Bowers at 15 to the Colts. This is interesting. I haven't seen this yet, but this makes sense to me. I'm totally in favor of if he falls, which seems like some people just aren't as high on Brock Bowers as I am. I think he's really good. But if he does fall, give him an option. Give Anthony Richardson an option. Give him a weapon. That's smart. Pretty much every mock draft has the Colts going corner, which Sikkema even mentions corner could be an option here, but I'm a big fan of this. And then Jackson Powers-Johnson to the Seahawks. Yes, this is something I should see more often. It's what they need. It's a good decision, I think. Totally on board. D. Mitchell goes here, the wide receiver out of Texas, goes to the Jaguars. That's interesting. Going with him over Brian Thomas Jr. I haven't really seen that too often. I've seen sometimes Jacksonville going Brian Thomas Jr. here. Maybe Sikkema just isn't as big of a fan of Brian Thomas Jr. as I am personally, but I don't know. I feel like I'd rather the guy who I feel maybe, I will say this about Mitchell, has a very good chance of being a good outside receiver. I would just rather Thomas personally. J.C. Latham, sure, could use a tackle. Totally makes sense. There's maybe some flashier picks you could go with here if you're Cincinnati, like some of the defensive linemen, but still a very good pick. And then Johnny Newton, which every time I read Johnny Newton, I'm like, who's Johnny Newton? Because he's listed as Jahan Newton on a lot of other boards. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong. But you know what I mean. So this will be an interesting pick, though. Newton's a really good interior defensive lineman prospect. Some people even like him more than the top guy who I'm blanking on his name right now, which I'm assuming we'll get to in a second. But I think that Newton would not be a bad fit here whatsoever. Could be really good next to Kobe Turner. They also could go pass rush, but we'll see. Cooper DeJean for the Steelers. Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of corner picks here for the Steelers. I see a ton of offensive line and then some wide receiver. But yeah, corner would also make sense, and Cooper DeJean would be really good. Moving on to the next one, Byron Murphy. That's the player who I was blanking on. Yeah, going to the Dolphins. I think most people would maybe flip that around, have the Rams going Byron Murphy Jr. and the Dolphins getting Newton here. But, sure, either way. Here's interesting. So this is part of probably why there was the Bo Nix trade down for the Broncos. Trade down, still get Bo Nix in the first round, still get the fifth-year option. It totally makes sense. The Broncos, for perspective, this totally makes sense. I just don't know if they would actually get someone willing to trade that high up just to 12 to get, who was it again, to get a Fuaga. If they can make it work, it's totally worth it. I'm just not sure if they can make that work is my concern. I could be wrong, but I think that would be smart for Denver. If they like Bo Nix, try to trade down and get him there. The other option would be maybe draft someone in pick 12, but then try to trade back up to the end of the first round and get Nix there, something like that. Le'Veon Latu to the Cardinals. Love this pick. I haven't seen it a lot, but really makes a lot of sense. Really good player, and they just need players, really, so go out and get him. Yeah, big fan of that. Graham Barton to the Cowboys. Have seen that a lot, but for a good reason. It's a smart move. Tyron Nubin to the Packers, which, it definitely makes sense, and it's something I haven't seen a lot either. I do like Newman. I have him as kind of a fringe first rounder. It's maybe a bit of a reach, but it is a position of need. The Packers are trying to be competitive now, and it's not a massive reach for me, so I would not be mad at this pick necessarily. And then Jared Verse to the Buccaneers. Sure, some people are a lot higher on Verse than I am, but even me would still be very happy with this at pick 26. So well done, Trevor. You didn't screw up the Bucks pick. I'm glad you didn't. Let's move on. Okay, this is interesting. Brandon Fisk. I wasn't crazy about him personally. I did not have a first-round grade on him. Let's just say that. That would be a bit of a reach for me with the Cardinals, who I loved their Leulatu pick. This one, not quite as high on. And then Brian Thomas Jr. goes to the Bills at 28. When I first saw this on a mock draft, I was kind of like, well, that would never happen. But I've seen this on a few more. I guess it's not crazy that some people in the NFL could be lower on him and he could fall. I've also brought up, I do wonder if the Bills consider a trade up to get him. Or maybe they say, hey, there's enough receivers, we don't need to do that. It's interesting with them. The Lions going with Jordan Morgan here would not be my pick. I'm not crazy about Jordan Morgan, and it's not their biggest need either. I don't know. Not what I would do personally. Xavier Worthy, that's interesting. Xavier Worthy to the Ravens. I do think he's a worthy pick here, I suppose. I do think that he is someone who, can kind of fit what the Ravens are doing. Sikkema brings up his speed and things like that. I do think that he could be a very valuable piece. Again, do they want to draft another wide receiver in round one? Well, they need receivers. Like, if you miss on a couple first-round wide receivers, well, then you probably need to go back and draft more first-round wide receivers. So I get the logic. Armarius Mims, definitely a good pick. 49ers could definitely use some offensive line help. That would be a good move, in my opinion. And Tyler Guyton to the Chiefs. Not as crazy about Guyton, but I do agree that the Chiefs have a very underrated, need at tackle, and I think that it's more important than receiver. And if you like Guyton enough, it makes sense to me. So yeah, that is Trevor Sikkema's mock draft. A fun one, a good one. I think that there was a couple of takes that I didn't love, but part of those might just be me things more so than like them being bad takes. So as a whole, I was definitely in favor of this. The Fuaga pick was the one that I was kind of most head scratched by, which is, again, weird because I like Fuaga a lot as a player. It's just, I don't know if it's the right move for the Eagles to make necessarily. I also think Neighbors falling is a bit too much for me, but some fun, definitely a very fun mock draft, very exciting. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.